passe. Oh, l'artiste. Super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De i semifinale igjen!
France are your EHF Euro 2024 champions after a dramatic extra-time victory against Denmark, 33-31 in the end. The French are victorious, the almighty Danes have been toppled, and the world doesn't really know what to think. It's Alex Kulesh here, and I'm joined by Chris O'Reilly. How are you doing?
Good, Alex. Just about recovered, almost fully recovered from that championship. 3 great weeks in Germany, and I think one of our people on Discord put it really well, and is saying, I'm kind of glad that the Euro is over now because my life has been completely dominated by it. Like as good as it was, all good things must come to an end, they say. And that is the case for this Euro. And it ended in perfectly dramatic fashion, just as these championships should, and just as any event at Lanxess Arena should.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable final weekend. You know, again, we had some hesitation going into it, or at least I did, but you were very confident that it was going to be a fantastic Final Four, semi-finals and finals, and we got an unbelievable collection of games. All 4 games, 5 if you include Hungary taking their historic 5th place in the European Championship. 2 dramatic extra time victories for France to seal the European Championship, and Denmark still, despite winning 3 World Championships in a row, the European Championship evades them, and it is a shock. You know, it's the finest of margins. They're 2 amazing teams, but everyone and their granny had Denmark winning the European Championship, except Marcio Menino, who did pick France to win. Out of all of our experts. So it was a complete shock, and it was a fantastic game. Really dramatic all the way through. Sweden, of course, took the bronze medal ahead of Germany, something that we expected, but Germany did make a game of it. It looked like it was very clear for Sweden in that bronze medal match, but in the end they did win 34-31 and claimed a spot in the Olympics, which is quite important.
Yes, yeah.
And probably a pity for Germany, who I think would have really cherished a bronze medal. You know, they would have really celebrated it in front of their fans. And yeah, but Sweden, very good team. We spoke about that before.
Yeah, Sweden very much deserved at least a bronze medal out of that tournament. There was the top 3 and then the rest at this championship. And anything else would have been a bit of a disappointment. And Max Dory saying afterwards that he's actually not sure whether the Olympic spot or the bronze medal is more important. He was leaning towards the Olympic spot, which is also quite interesting, seeing as they don't have to put in the extra effort in a qualification tournament to get there. Coming up later in the show, we have interviews with Nedim Remili and Mikkel Hansen right after the epic final we're going to speak about. And before we go into that, it's a good chance for us to thank all of you on Patreon who've supported us over the last month. A real nice rise in the community over the last couple of months, actually, for the World Championship and in particular for the Euro. And we want to thank you for supporting us and hopefully to continue supporting us, because we've got a lot more fun stuff coming up in the months to come with the second half of the season, and also leading up to the Olympic Games in Paris. But now, to the final. I mean, fine margins. Like, France didn't win a game in a normal time on this final weekend. I don't think anyone has nobody's done that at a Euro before. Funnily enough, that was the Magdeburg route from just a few months ago. But on both occasions, like snatching the draw from the jaws of defeat. Before we get to the final moments, I think maybe it's good to... We'll go in chronological order, shall we? Yeah.
So the first thing that happened in the game was
Yes.
Emil Nielsen got the start.
Were you surprised?
Ahead of Nicolas Landin? I think I was surprised. I think he absolutely deserved it, but it's worked for Denmark in such epic fashion to have him come on. So in this case, in the final, Emil Nielsen had an unbelievable game. He had an unbelievable first half. He was at 50% save rate in the first half and then tailed off a little bit. Nicolas Landin came on and had his kind of normal good performance, but not outstanding. But what's worked for Denmark in this championship is you have Nicolas Landin starting off with a good performance, not outstanding, enough to keep Denmark in the game. And then you have Emil Nielsen come on and crush the soul of any opponent who dares to compete with Denmark. In this case, it was kind of flipped and worked in a negative way, I suppose, even though Emil Nielsen had 50.
I wasn't surprised. The only thing that surprised me was that Nikolaj Jakobsen was kind of brave enough to do it. Because based on his performance in the championship and based on the fact that Emil Nielsen, number one, played a number of years in France, and number two, is a teammate of key players for France, this is kind of an insight that they have not been able to get before. To have, and I think for a goalkeeper, it is a bigger advantage to know the shooters than for the shooters to know the goalkeeper. And so in that sense, like on paper, it made perfect sense. The fact that he did it, he threw him in there was like the brave thing to do. And as you said, it worked out because he was winning that goalkeeper battle by a long way, and he was making some crucial saves. However, in that first half, what really stood out for me in what was a fantastic game is that while Emil Nielsen was doing some amazing work in the Danish goal, the French defense was doing some amazing work against the Danish team and causing a number of turnovers, forcing difficult shots. And so even if Samuel Bellesen wasn't having and didn't have an extraordinary game, again, did just about enough, it didn't reflect on the scoreboard whatsoever.
It was incredible work from that French defence. Those steals by Delaney were, it's quite obvious, isn't it? Mikkel Hansen stands there and Giesel and Putlik are running around. So you just have to capture that moment where Mikkel Hansen is standing there.
Yeah.
And you have to be ridiculously fast like Delaney to go 3 meters in the space less than a second or whatever it takes for Mikkel Hansen to throw a pass. But there's 2 crucial interceptions by Delaney on the wing, which again really stemmed the tide for France, where it looked like Denmark were in control, and then bang, steal, fast break, goal, bang, steal, fast break, goal. And you could see just how much the French defence really studied that Danish attack. And yeah, I was quite surprised that it went in level at 14-14 when you look at Emil Nielsen's 50% save rate. And, for Denmark, Mathias Gidsel started off really well. Simon Putlik put in a good shift. They were also playing well. The big difference in the whole game was really the turnovers. So for Denmark, they did have 11 turnovers in the whole game. France only had 3.
11-3 is a big difference. And what was also standing out to me a little bit there was the rebounds. And I haven't been able to find, and I don't think that it's really something that's tracked so much, but rebounds collected by France in the attack in particular, and Ludovic Fabregas in particular, because that was something that was also keeping them in that game in the first half. Emil Nielsen was making saves, but there was a few times, it felt like crucial times, where the rebounds were going to France, and they either got a goal straight away from it, or they again set up another attack, because they really did have more good opportunities in that match compared to Denmark. And
you just going back to what you said about goalkeepers knowing it's better for a goalkeeper to know a shooter than a shooter to know a goalkeeper. And that wasn't mostly evident in Dikamem going 0 from 5 in that first half with really got opportunities because France were doing really, really well. They were breaking through the Danish defence. I don't think the Danish defence was particularly that strong. I really think it was Emil Nielsen that was doing wonders as opposed to like a combination of defensive work and goalkeeper. France were sailing through, and there was one moment, and I think it was Mem's fourth shot after he had 3 saves from Emil Nielsen. He broke through. He was right in the middle of the goal. He was going at speed. And he just he jumped and waited for so long because he was just like, I really, really need to score this. And he waited and smashed it against the post. And it's just like, that's a moment where literally Emil Nielsen was so in his head that he overthought that shot so much that he had to overdo it so much that he actually ended up hitting the post in what is just a shot he's probably scored or would score 100 out of 100 times. And that was, that was incredible to see. I kind of built up this Dikamem versus Matthias Gisel, 2 best players in the world. And just recently, our good friends, Rasmus Boysen and Stig Nygaard, did their top 50 player list that comes out just before the final. And they put Dikamem ahead of Matthias Gisel. So he put Dikamem as the first best player in the world and Matthias Gisel as the second best player in the world. And in that first half, Matthias Gisel was definitely the best player in the world.
For the 60 minutes, I think
for the 60 minutes,
in two different ways. I mean, the first half was brilliant in terms of shooting, and his shooting in the end was picture perfect, 8 from 8. But in the second half, it was his ability to win penalties. He had 6 assists in the game. I think 5 of those are attributed to winning penalties, which Mikkel Hansen put away. So that would have been 5 more goals that he would have scored if not for the fact that he was fouled and a penalty given for it. He was really on fire. And I mean, we saw Simo Pitlick kind of stepped up a little bit. It was still, he was 5 from 10 in the end. He wasn't doing anything particularly special, but he was coming up with a few big goals, not the Pitlick from last year, but it felt like enough to keep the scoreboard ticking over, enough for Denmark to basically stay in the game or stay in the head, because even though it felt really even in that first half, as the second half developed, it looked to me like this was Denmark's game. They were 1 or 2 goals better, in my mind, than France.
They were, and it was the quality of essentially Gisel, Pitlick and Hansen. So all of them took turns, essentially. Gisel was pretty constant throughout, but he would have kind of moments where he would be slowed down. Pitlick really came up clutch with 9-meter shots, so he really saved Denmark. I think you can't underestimate Mikkel Hansen scoring 7 from 7 penalties in the final. That's not an easy thing to do. That is incredible, and he just absolutely bamboozled the French goalkeepers. His penalty style is just outstanding. And then towards the end, actually, Mikkel Hansen stepped up and scored 2 really crucial goals, and now he is actually the top scorer in EHF Euro history. He overtook Nikola Karabatic, who didn't really play in the final. Nikola Karabatic,
he had a couple of good passes in the first half.
Yeah, he got 2 assists, 0 from 1. He did play 35 minutes, and defensively France were solid, but Brandy was really the offensive force in that left back position, and just Ludovic Fabregas, ludicrous Fabregas,
ludicrously fabulous.
He is just an absolute beast. And he was the player that France went to time and time again when they struggled. They just got the ball to him on the line. He turned, he scored 8 from 10, really good return, got 2 more penalties as well. Defensively was a beast, and I think, we need to start really talking about him as the best player in the world, at least in that discussion with the likes of Dika Mem and Matthias Giesel. I think Ludovic Fabregas belongs right up there. He's definitely the best line player, but I think what he does offensively and defensively, and the way he can now start dominating games, so regularly we've seen him in this championship just get those 8 goals in a game, which is not easy for a line player, irrespective of what defense is doing.
Well, you say that he's had a good tournament, a very good tournament, 44 goals, 88% scoring, but that was his highest score in a single game at this championship. That 8 from 10. Before that, the highest was 7. So he was scoring consistently, but saving your very best in front of goal for the final, that is massive. That also shouldn't be underestimated. It felt to me like, there was a lot of talk in the game about the physical side of things from France, and I think it's one of those things where it's like maybe easier to say afterwards because Denmark lost the game that maybe they were overpowered a little bit physically, because as we're going to go into, I'm sure they had the game literally in their hands in the final seconds, so it didn't really matter in the end. But did you feel that there was that much of a physical disparity between the two teams?
I think they're like Putlik and Gisel got hit hard many times, and I don't think we saw the same on the French players. And that's Fabregas actually overpowering multiple times the Danish defense on the line. It wasn't like a lot of the goals that Fabregas scored weren't kind of free shots. Each time he wrestled through, whether it was Segstrup, Held, whoever it was. And, you look at a player like Segstrup, who was fantastic, but he's not the biggest guy on the court. He's a big guy, but he's not an absolute tank in the same way that you have Fabregas and Karl Conan on the other side. They're just more physically imposing. And I think that could have worn Denmark down a little bit. And then I think crucially, they were smart enough. The defense was not only big, it was also fast in what we talked about, Dylan Nahi, and also smart to shut down Denmark's 7-on-6, which has been really effective throughout for a long time now. When Denmark kind of bring out the 7-on-6, it kills off a game. That's what happened in the semi-final against Germany. They had nothing. They were getting nothing with that 7-on-6 against the French defense, which was just mobile, strong, and clever. And it really...
Should we go into the final quarter then, break down how France once again survived death here? Because Denmark did go for the 7v6 quite late in the game. I think the timeout came just before 5 minutes left to play. So Jakobsen, there was about 6 minutes left to play. I think Nikolai Jakobsen knew he needed to take it now because France might have also had that in mind and tried to kill enough of that time to make sure they didn't get the extra timeout. And so with about 6 minutes left to play, Denmark go 7v6. Hansen hadn't scored or I think he'd scored one. No, he hadn't scored at all from open play. He had scored all these magnificent penalties, which, as we said, is completely not to be underestimated. But he steps up in the middle of that 7-on-6. There's no space around him. The line players aren't being given the chances because France were just too mobile, too smart. So there was space, though, for Hansen to step up. And boy, did he step up and bang in a couple of goals towards the end.
Yeah, he did. He essentially, France took the lead, went up 25-24, and that's when Mikkel Hansen got 2 in a row to bring Denmark back up. And it looked like it was kind of it. Then Matthias Gisel got, so Fabregas earned a penalty. Cantamae stepped up, and I loved Cantamae in the final. He was scoring these penalties and just going nuts. It just shows you just how much pressure there is and how difficult it really is, that he was just going nuts on the bench every time he scored, screaming his head off. And then Gisel got a goal, again, just kind of breaking through untouched. There were so many times where it looked like, similar to what kind of the skipper did earlier in the championship, where everyone's so scared of what you're going to do that you can just sail through the middle and score a goal. And that's what Matthias Gisel did, got the lead. France had the ball, and then Denmark got the ball, and it looked like if they managed that time, then they could have won the game. They really should have won the game. I think there was just a little bit of lapse of concentration, which led to this fast break Ludovic Fabregas goal to equalise. And I don't know if you noticed what actually happened in that equaliser, Chris. Did you see what Mikkel Hansen did?
Did I see what Mikkel Hansen did? He would have been basically where Fabregas... that's where Fabregas started, right? He was being marked by Hansen, and then he slipped off him.
Mikkel Hansen absolutely panicked in the centre of defence. He absolutely shit himself and then caused that goal. So everyone just rewatch it. So so on the other side first, Matthias Gisel had the ball.
I see it. Oh no.
Did you see what happened?
I'm watching it now. Yeah. So go on, take us through it.
You have to look back at this. So the turnover happens, and we'll go back to whether it was a turnover or not. But Mikkel Hansen was in the centre of defence. Usually he doesn't really defend. He goes on the wing if he does, and he does okay on the wing. But he ran all the way back and landed in the centre of defence as France were attacking. So France got into attack, Remili with the ball, Fabregas on the line, and Mikkel Hansen standing there in the centre defence, being like, what the hell am I doing here? No. And in that moment, he goes to Gisel and says, here, Matthias, take my spot in the middle here. And steps away from Fabregas. He takes a step like 2 meters away from Fabregas, and Fabregas is there completely on his own to receive the ball. 2-on-1. All Mikkel Hansen had to do was stand there and look like he was a defender, instead of absolutely shitting himself and trying to put someone else into that spot. And that cost Denmark
not only did he like peel away in a kind of looking around where do I actually belong here, but he actually has time during this to fix his hairband as well. His sweatband. Oh my god, he literally opens up a 2-on-1. Like it's Prondy and Fabregas against Saugstrup with 33 seconds left. Yeah, he's trying to shove Gisel back into the middle, but it's too late. Gisel, he just got terrified. Just looks at Hansen. He's like, "What have you done? How have you done this to us?" Yeah. Goodness.
He looks like he's just like, what?
That is.
It's crazy.
That's wild.
And that's the equalising goal, and we're into extra time. So just on the Matthias Gisel, his turnover after passive play, essentially. A lot of Danes were quite angry that this was given, but I think the hand was up for a little while. There was already one attempt at essentially going into the defenders' foul. So this was a second attempt of going into defenders without an aim of shooting. So I think it was a relatively good decision.
These things can be like sped up a little bit in these seconds. I think that's what you'd rather see in terms of turning it over. And there was a couple of times where I think it was also Kirkuluka or Pitlick at one point, they're jumping into the defense, hoping that they get the free throw. Yeah, and the referees are just onto them, and it's like, no, you don't look like you're going to take a shot. We give the ball to the opposition. And I think that's okay. with me, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. It was, he was kind of dragging out of him, but yeah, again, I think it stems from the fact that the hand was up and it wasn't necessarily a full direct attack into score a goal. And then we have extra time. And again, France are the team that have the momentum.
To Brian there in our Patreon only post semi-final pod that the only way I saw France winning this game is if they took it to extra time, because I thought over the 60 minutes Denmark would be better. They were better, but they didn't score the amount of goals needed to win the game. The key thing for me in extra time, and I think you alluded to it as well earlier on with Nicolas Landin coming on. Now, he made 2 saves in important times, but that didn't feel so right to me at the time. And again, hindsight is 2020, but that feels like it was a mistake. And DKM felt like it was their mistake as well.
Exactly. I think you have to put Nielsen in for extra time. Despite his little, he had a fantastic start, then started to drop off. So it was probably right to bring Landin in when he did. But you bring in your impact guy. Like, you bring in the guy who's gonna, and you know what, Nicolas Landin also, yeah. They're both amazing. So hard to make the decision, but it's quite punishing to Nielsen to not give him a chance after he already was having an unbelievable game. Not to give him another chance to continue his unbelievable game. And yeah, DQM 0 from 5 in normal time, 2 from 2, 9-meter shots, breakthrough and a 9-meter shot for DQM in extra time, which really they're the 2 crucial goals that brought it from level to France, and once again, 2 goals up.
The man who basically scored the winning goal was Elohim Prandi.
And he took 4 steps.
That's just his thing.
To be fair, that one is also he got the winner. Amazing. Clutch. Fantastic. But this is probably just... It's this issue with the steps. It's kind of getting ridiculous. Now what he did was take a step, take the 0 step, took 2 more steps.
So that's 5 step.
You're not allowed to take a step. That's 5 steps. You're not allowed to take a step before the 0 step. If you take a step before a 0 step, that's 2 steps. And that's what he did.
It's super clear.
9 meters. Yeah. Super clear. That should have been called as travel. But hey, France won, and there is this slightly weird feeling because of all of this, and there's so many complaints, so many people jumping on the unfair ship that it's hard to it was so divisive. Everyone's complaining at each other. Everyone's shouting, cry more. No, this is this. People are pulling up rule books. People, there's lots of alliances being made. Sweden, Denmark finally seeing eye to eye against France. All of this online. But in the end, I think you have to give it to France for the attrition they had, for the tactical performance they put in. So Guillaume Gilles has to really be respected in this win, especially how they set up defensively. And Prandi, hey, he played by the rules that were given to him, and he scored twice to win the championship.
Yeah, if he get caught, then so be it. If he didn't, it's the same. It's funny because people are so quick to forget that that's what people were complaining about Denmark last year. Putlik and Gitzel,
exactly,
and the GOG 5-step, and just it is funny how people quickly forget about it. And I'm pretty sure by the time August comes around and they meet in the Olympic final, or if they don't because of some other controversy that knocks one of them out, we'll have moved on. But it sets it up very nicely, and I'm glad we don't have a whole year to wait for what is the real final chapter of Karabatic versus Hansen, and it's in France
Hansen,
as well, which
yeah.
that's going to be exceptional. It's going to be really really nice, and I think that this has been a really great rivalry, which we were kind of surprised that although they've met in the Olympic final, met in World Championship final, that was their first Euro final meeting since France absolutely spanked Denmark at home in 2014. And so, yeah, this maybe feels like that chapter coming to an end in a way, even though these two nations are going to keep producing amazing players, but it'll be different groups of players playing each other in finals.
I'm not going to be surprised if we see Dika Mem and Matthias Giesel play 6 finals against each other. You know, they've already played a few. It's not quite... It has been an incredible rivalry. And when you really think about it, the moment when Fabregas scored to equalise and send the game into extra time, and Hansen's action in that moment to be scared of defence, is why Nikola Karabatic is the best player of all time. And while Mikkel Hansen is
He can't defend.
right up there, he's not. He can't
Fabregas
defend.
who scored the equaliser there. Also a nice little bit of redemption for him, because it was he who was denied by Palika in the end of the semi-final against Sweden 2 years ago. It was wasn't he the one who missed the last penalty against Magdeburg as well? So yeah, coming up clutch for his team is a sign of progression as well. So nice one for Ludovic. Before we go into our alternative awards, it's our chance to hear from the gold and silver medalists. We'll hear first from Mikkel Hansen about how he took that loss for Denmark, and then from the MVP himself, Nedim Remili. So Mikkel Hansen, it's of course not the situation you want to be in here with the silver medal. It's been a little bit now since the final buzzer has gone. What's going through your mind in that game?
Oh, obviously all of us were really disappointed playing a final where you have a couple of chances to win the game in regular time, and had some difficulties with stopping their very physical offense in extra time. But at the end of the day, I think we weren't good enough in the decisive moments where we had the chances, and when you're not good enough in those moments, you lose.
And in a game like this, there was a big disparity in terms of saves. 18 for your keepers, 9 for the French. It showed that they were creating a lot of chances, whereas you were putting away a lot of the chances, but found it difficult to overcome that defence. What do you think the main difference was?
Oh, they did great. I mean, obviously it's a very good defence, but yeah, I also think we missed some big chances where we didn't hit the target, and you cannot see those things in the statistics. So, but in the end, as I said before, we had a couple of chances to win the game, and if you don't grab these chances, you don't win. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, and in those final minutes of normal time, you switched to the 7v6. That seemed to work really well for you, and you seemed in control. And a change in defence as well to the 3-2-1. It's more of your teammates' roles then, but what did you see in that change? Do you think that was the right decision?
We managed to get control of the game again with 7 against 6, and we had some good saves for our goalkeepers and some good sequences in defense. And the last two attacks we have, they changed the defense to like 5-1, 3-2-1, and we didn't succeed against the defense. So of course that's something we have to watch the next time we show up together and figure out if we end out in a situation like that, similar. We need something else to play, probably. But it's always easy to stand here afterwards, and if it had worked, it would have been great. So
They're the fine margins that these things are decided on. You've been on the positive and negative side of it.
Small things. Also in the extra time, if Elohim he misses his shot, we have the chance to go up and score again. They have a good save from the keeper, and we have the technical error, and that decided the game today.
Thanks for sharing it. Nedim, the light on your face is clear to see. What an end to this 3 weeks, and in particular this weekend. I mean, how did you get through it all?
Well,
Step by step.
step by step, true.
But
Sure,
this final
sure.
weekend.
No, I mean, we built our tournament pretty well, I could say. Of course, like I said earlier, we're afraid maybe a lot of people after this draw against Switzerland, but Switzerland playing an amazing 7-6 against us. Everything worked for them on this day. But we were sure about our strength. We prepared every damn game after this one really well, really well. We took our time. We knew that it's gonna be a tough and a long journey until this final, where we wanted to be. But at the end we came against Sweden as well. Crazy game. What can I say? We led this first half amazingly, and the second half we just lost everything. But our mindset just fought. We fought until the end, and we showed it once again today in the final against Danish. We knew it's gonna be a tough one, strong one, hard one, difficult game. And I think the fans are really satisfied about what they saw today. And we are even more satisfied from the win.
Take us through those last couple of minutes in normal time, because, as you said, once again, you've come back from defeat, basically, to snatch something and turn it around in extra time. What specifically have you got in plan for these last minutes or so? Or is it a lot of kind of intuition, or is there a set approach to it?
Yeah, intuition, maybe confidence, I don't know. I mean, like I said, we trust each other. I love every single of them because we trust each other. We know that we can count on any of us. And we showed it today, despite their amazing attack. Really, they are really tough to stop. But we trust each other. We got a plan, and we follow it until the end. We didn't complain to each other. We didn't make this chaos in defense. I think defense made the difference at the end of this overtime, particularly. So yeah, we fought until the end. And then at this moment, I think tactic doesn't matter. It's just about hurt and intensity and what we have done. It was a happy end for us.
The hurt is an interesting word there. The Danes were also talking a lot about the physicality that you brought to the game, and that really seemed to impact on them, particularly in defence. I mean, is that something you knew going into the game, that you had to exert that physical dominance on them?
I don't think we got this dominance. I just know that we like to play tough. We like to play kind of aggressive, defensively and offensively as well. And this is our strength. I think we're maybe not the team who's playing the most beautiful handball offensively. But when we go to 1-on-1, 2 against 2, when we go to shoot, we go 100%. Fighting until the end, we go 100%. We're giving a hard call to the referees because we are fighting until the last step, the last shoot or whatever. So yeah, this is our spirit. This is our handball. It's a handball who is winning, so we are really happy.
And just one little word, you're probably not thinking about August just yet, but it's a fantastic start to the year and what could be a really historic year for France. Any thoughts now on what could come in Paris and Lille later in the year?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's we still have 6 months. We are gonna play in our club now. We're all playing France and Danish team as well. The Champions League. We all want to win it with our own team. So hard to say what's gonna be in Paris. Hopefully, we're gonna play in front of our fans. It will be amazing. It will be a big party for our country, and hopefully, we're gonna show all the world how the France can be during this tournament, like it used to in 2017.
Absolutely. Well, make sure you enjoy tonight.
Thank you very much. Sure. Thank you. Enjoy a bit also. It was a long journey.
I think we should probably dive into the alternative awards. It's a pity not to have Brian here. Always good to have 3 heads to try to decide on the awards, especially, what if we have disagreements? We don't have an impartial party we can't vote, but we'll give it a go anyway. And we do have suggestions from our Discord, so do appreciate everyone who has made their suggestions for our famous alternative awards. Before we get into that, quick mention on the actual All-Star team.
I think Campus Vanna was a bit strange. not sure he would have been my all-star left wing. He is good, but I'm not sure if he was the best.
It's kind of hard because I saw a lot of people say Tim Velde as a all-star left wing, and he scored a lot of goals, but he shot under 70% as a winger, and it's you don't you're not an all-star with that, essentially, in my books. I think you could have put Descat in there. I thought he had a really good redemption tournament after his 2 ACL injuries in the last 3 years. He probably would have been my choice on the left wing, and I think I would have had Felix Klar as playmaker.
I mean, also the final weekend that Felix Klar had was in itself a remarkable one.
Exactly.
If you wanted to have everyone in there, like if we're talking, when I say everyone, I mean I'm thinking from a French-Denmark perspective, the big three of Gitzel, Mem, and Remili. You know, have Remili as the playmaker, Mem as the right back, and Gitzel as the MVP. Because I know that it came down to basically whoever won that final was going to get MVP, either Remili or Gitzel. So that was basically what it came to. Fabregas. But it was like they didn't. Nobody knew who was going to have that final. He was already in the All-Star team. Yeah.
No, it had to be Fabregas, and I think Remili was absolutely incredible in this championship as a pure playmaker. Now, his playmaking has been. You have to remember that it's only 4 years maybe since he switched from right back to full-time playmaker, and he was really, really good in this championship. But Fabregas, come on, if you're going to give it to the winning team, it was either going to be Gitzel if Denmark won, or Emil Nielsen really stake a claim for it. Hey, it was too hard.
Nielsen was the one I predicted at the beginning of the championship, and he's my MVP. What a tournament he's had. But okay. On to the alternative awards then. Shall we run through them all quickly and then dive into them? So we have the Swiss Army knife, we have the Swiss cheese, the butter knife, random rocket, catch me if you can, breakout player. We already had a breakout all-star team, so we'll see if we can pick the best player from that. The true award from this, the Adrian Schiposh award for excellency in shithousery, and a new one that has popped up during the championship, the Do a Norway award, or alternative names,
grasping defeat from the jaws of victory, honorary Norwegian award.
Okay, so traditionally we begin with the Swiss Army knife. Who have you got for that, Alex?
My Swiss Army knife is Julian Kuster, who had a very impressive tournament for Germany. And I think when you look at his stats, he has just this beautiful mix where he has 31 goals, he has 31 assists, he has actually an insane 17 blocks. That's that's double the next best. 5 steals. So he can shoot, he can step up and score when he needs to, which he did in I think that game against, was it Austria, where he really stepped up and scored 9 goals. He can pass the ball, he's immense in defence, and especially blocking was a huge influence on how well Germany defended. And he's not like a superstar, which is also what we talk about here. He's not really, he's not the absolute leader of the team yet. So he's my Swiss.
What stands out to me here is that he's only got 2 fewer assists than Yuri Knorr, which is quite interesting given what you assume the relationship between them would be in terms of backcourt players. And he's a great shout. The one I have is, I think, would be considered more of a kind of a shout out rather than a real contender, but someone I really enjoyed watching at this championship who literally did a little bit of everything was Portugal's Salvador.
I do love Salvador, and the best
He's got the best mustache, that's for sure.
And best mullet and mustache combo.
He is.
Give it to Salvador.
He belongs in a different time, and he's an absolute monster. And I think there's a lot more to come from this man. But first of all, he was the starting left back for Portugal at this championship on day one. And what a different journey it could have been if he had killed it on that opening day for Martin Costa, who started every other game as the left back after that. But it was Salvador the first one. But he found himself, yes, he wasn't the starting left back anymore. He wasn't really a left back anymore after that, but he found many other ways to contribute for this team. He is the new centre block defender, replacing all our great Cuban, Portuguese line players who have come and gone over the last couple of years. He had a big role to play in defense. He had the Lena Haugstedt role as the transition bulldozer into attack, and he scored a lot of goals. Not just that he scored goals, but he was very efficient as well. There were games where he was scoring 4 out of 4 or 3 out of 3, winning penalties and just like really driving the counter-attack. But another little part of this is that, and we heard from Paulo Pereira about this as well, when there were times they could only really use Luis Frade as a line player if he needed a break or he got a 2-minute suspension. Salvador became a line player as well. So this is a man who literally did whatever it took for his team to progress, and I think he deserves at least a big shout out in this category this year.
You know what? I'm gonna channel my inner Brian Campion right now, because I know what he would say right now. He would question if
is too good.
is too good to be a Swiss Army knife. He would absolutely he is the law on drawing a line of whether a player's too good or not to be a Swiss Army knife. And I kind of like your suggestion because of that line player piece. Just the fact that he really slotted in wherever. Like this left back, quite talented young left back who was just told to go in on the line and move your body around in there to give Luis Frade a rest. And I think that's the true spirit of the Swiss Army knife. Being a line player is your little like hook that comes out of the Swiss Army knife that you don't really know what to do with, but you need it sometimes.
Yeah, and it fits this Portugal team to have that represented as well. This is a Portugal team that also at one point had Gilberto Duarte as a left wing. because he was on the far side as a substitution and it wasn't working with Fernandes as a defender. So it's like, okay, we're going to sacrifice scoring from the left wing just to have a good number 2 defender on the left hand side. So yeah, that spirit of the team, we'll give it to them. Salvador, the Swiss Army knife for this men's Euro 2024. Congratulations. We also had Julian Custer in Discord as well, so you're not the only one who feels, but it maybe already he's too good, and he's certainly too important a player for Germany. Swiss cheese. Could this be a quick one?
There can only be one, really. And it's a performance that set the scene for this championship. It set the scene for the championship because it was just wild in the opening game between Spain and Croatia. And we all watched on in shock and horror as Croatia romped through and scored goal
39 goals
after goal after goal after goal after goal, with the Spanish defence and the Spanish goalkeepers nowhere to be seen. 1 save from 26 for Perez de Vargas, 0 from 10 for Sergei Hernandez, so 1 from 36 in total, just under 3% as a save rate for those goalkeepers. And I think we're all in shock watching it, but there was something glorious about it. So definitely a Swiss Cheese Award nomination too. The question is, do you give it to Spain or do you give it to Spanish goalkeepers?
I think the Spanish goalkeepers is a duo. Like, that is conceding 36 chances on goal, as clear cut or not, is one thing. But just the fact that it looked like nothing, like it looked like there was never going to make a save. That I think it's good when we can specify it. It's good to specify it, and let's give it to the. Or do you want to specify it even further? Is 0 from 10 not enough to add to the misery? 1 from 26 from Perez de Vargas. Is that truly the award winner here?
I would go Perez de Vargas, and it's harsh. You know, he's had much glory in his career, but I think what added to the shock was that it was Perez de Vargas who was doing this and had 0 saves at halftime. I think if it was just Sergei Hernandez, I think we'd be, we wouldn't be in such, it wouldn't be
good.
As dramatic.
Then, I agree. That was the only one I had on my list, was that game, that performance. Yeah, that's an easy one this time around. The next one, the butter knife for a player that has one very, very specific role, and they do it very well. This can also have a little bit of contention. We've had Nora Merck win this on a couple of, at least one occasion, for her penalty taking. I have a couple of names down here. Should I throw them out? For me, I have Carl Conan as one of them. And the other one is kind of a duo because of one that the other has this role. It's Niklas Kirkelöcke and Hans Lindberg. One of those two. Niklas Kirkelöcke has the most interesting butter knife role of all for me, because last year at the World Championship, Denmark made this discovery that they can protect Matthias Gidsel as a defender. Matthias Gidsel is a good defender, but they can protect him by putting him out in the wing and having Niklas Kirkelöcke, the number 2 defender on the right-hand side, because he can just go on the right wing, maybe score sometimes, but mostly just run up and down. And you don't really need one on the wing if you've got Matthias Gidsel. So Kirkelöcke seen as a winger for this team now. And he is, in a way, almost like a Swiss Army knife. And somebody in the Discord did put him as a Swiss Army knife, which I think is kind of fair, but at the same time, he has one. Like, if I think of Niklas Kirkelöcke, his role is he defends and then he sprints out to the wing. At one point during this championship, he had recorded the most sprints in the championship. And that is because he's got a lot of ground to cover, going from number 2 in defense to the right wing in attack. And that is for me his butter knife. The fact that he then occasionally pops up and scores on the right back position when they only have one pass left in passive play is a little bit irrelevant. But he's somewhere between a Swiss Army knife and a butter knife.
Kirkelöcke is an interesting one. And I'm not sure, he might have won at the World Championship last year. I think we may have given Kirkelöcke the butter knife award exactly for this reason, because it just started. It was that final. Or it was towards the latter stage of the championship where Nikolaj Jakobsen had this genius idea, and which essentially won the championship for Denmark. So I think that's why I wouldn't go for him. I think in this championship he also did play a bit of right back, so he showed his Swiss Army knifeness more than the butter knife aspect, because he didn't really play at all. I think the other player you mentioned, Hans Lindberg, is more butter knife related, because especially his performance in, what was it? Is it the semi-final or the last game of the group stages where he got 5 goals
against
in
Norway?
1 point. He got 5 goals in 1.5 minutes, just from penalties. 5 from 5, taking his penalties. That's always an easy option.
Basically, because of Kirkulacker, the only time he was used on the right wing was in the 6-on-5 situation. Because Denmark have that set team where Hansen comes in and Lindberg comes in. But besides that, he just wasn't used at all. So I think that is a good more of a reason why he is the butter knife there. Do you have any other suggestions?
My other one was also a Danish player, and that's Mikkel Damgaard, because he has this really unique role where he comes in only when the substitution in attack can happen on the right side of the bench. So like he only comes in second halves usually, because then you can do the right substitution with I don't really remember who it usually is, but he doesn't play defense. Only comes in when they're facing the right direction, and when he comes in, all he does is take standing shots.
He's a little bit yeah.
That's it. He's made a career out of that single shot. He's won a Champions League. He's won a World Championship.
He's a little bit
with that
like
single shot.
Kind of the new Mads Mensa. A little bit. Mads Mensa was like the agent of chaos that you throw in there now. He is still a little bit like that Mensa, but he's trusted a bit more. Whereas Damgaard it's like rolling a dice. It's like we'll bring him in. Either he's going to have a good day and he scores 10 goals, or he's going to go 0 from 5. And well, there's only one way to find out. He's an absolute wild card.
He's an absolute wild card. You put him in, and his role is, as you said, agent of chaos. To just, he'll either win you or lose you a game, and you have to just use him wisely. So I have him.
I like that. I think it is more
nomination.
It is very specific, his role, and I think the fact that you don't know if it'll work or not. A little bit like a butter knife as well. Will the butter be? Will this knife and the butter smoothly spread or not? You don't know. How hard is this butter?
Yeah, exactly. How hard is this butter?
Find out. All right. Yeah, I like it. Good. Random Rocket is the next one. This is for somebody who comes up with something, usually a shot. An amazing, hard shot, ridiculously good shot out of nowhere. Who have you got in mind for that?
I have 2 nominations here. One is Georgi Chekvibradze, just because the Georgian right back who he went out quite early in the championship, of course, but he's random because his shots come at such random angles, jumps, like steps. What he does is really random. It's not random that he shoots, because he shoots a lot. And he does score a lot, but it's the way he shoots. But I think my other nomination, which also I think came in through the Discord, is a really good one, and that is Niels Versteinen, for particularly his 15 goals in that main round match for the Netherlands, where it's random because we know he's a good player. He was thrust. We've talked about his role, how he was thrust into it, and he had just been kind of a little bit shy, passing the ball, doing well playmaking, but it felt like he was just scared to shoot sometimes, or just in his head a little bit, and he just got unleashed in that game. And is now one of the highest ever scorers in a single game.
I like that. The randomness, you don't know whether the shot is going to be ridiculously good or not, because the accuracy isn't always there yet with him. And you also don't know where he's, physically at this championship. One I had was Aaron Palmerson. What he came up with on a couple of occasions when he did, finally managed to, just fucking do it, rock and roll, as he said in his own words, it did catch me by surprise. That those goals against Serbia, particularly that last one, was astonishing. And you just don't know if he has that in his locker anymore. And he managed to pop up with that on a few occasions. Prondy was one with the...
Oh, you know what? It's got to be. Yeah. How did I forget about this?
But that was such a...
It's not that random, but it's just...
Discussion of rules aside, we did that in the previous podcast. Like, the fact... How he managed to get that around the wall, like, power-wise. And just, like, you see the close-up of it just, like, pinging off the woodwork and beyond Palika is special. But will people hate us because we gave it to an illegal goal?
Yeah. I think we have to give it to Brandy just because it was also the most views on a video from a Handball Hour Twitter account of 1.6. And a lot of so that was random as well. 1.6 million.
And the reactions were quite random as well at times. Then Random Rocket goes to Elohim Brandy and his after the buzzer equaliser in the semi-final against Sweden.
Which I suppose you can also give to the Catch Me If You Can award, depending on how you interpret that award. There's lots of interpretation, but I think Catch Me If You can apply to Elohim Brandy scoring the goal, sprinting away, and no one asking him a question.
It also maybe qualifies for the Adrian Shiposh, but he got away with that. I don't know. What do you have for Catch Me If You Can? Do you have anything else that could defeat Brandy? Go on.
I do have a nomination for Catch Me If You Can, and that is Georgian. I like my Georgians. Georgian goalkeeper Zurab Tsindadze, who had one of the most remarkable moments in this whole championship when Georgia were up 1 goal against Bosnia, 22-21. They conceded a turnover. The Bosnian goalkeeper, Buric, threw the ball for a fast break for Bosnia to equalise with probably about 30 seconds, 45 seconds left. And out of nowhere, Georgian goalkeeper Zurab Tsintadze sprints out of his goal, intercepts the fast break pass from the Bosnian winger, gets the ball, and he's not done. He's not done. He hasn't just saved the game there yet. He gets that rush of blood that goalkeepers get when they find themselves beside the halfway line, where they're like, you know what, I can do this. I can win this game. And he sprints, takes a few bounces, gets to the 9-meter line, and plays a lovely bounce pass into the right wing for Georgia, who puts it away, makes it 23-21, and gets Georgia their very first points in a European Championship ever. So,
fully agree. And I think we said earlier in the championship, like when it happened, that we need to give an award for this, and thankfully, I think Catch Me If You Can fits that one really well. The other nomination I had was the skipper, Elias Elfsson-Ashipagatu, but he'll get his awards someday.
He's a good one, yeah. I think specifically for the skipper, if we're going to have to, nominate something, it's that goal where, and I think, the video got quite a lot of views on EHF EURO on Instagram, where he was standing on 7 meters, faked it up to the right back, faked it to the left to his left back, took a step forward, faked it through his legs, and then just took another step and dove through defence and scored, which was just incredible. It's that fear from the defence. So what is he going to do? Impossible to catch, even though he's not moving.
It's like, wait, he's about
something really special.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Maybe he's a contender in the next one, the Breakout Player Award. And we did a podcast specifically about breakout players, and we had an entire all-star team of them. I guess it has to come from that. Yeah.
So the team. I think let's do this one relatively quickly, because we did do a full podcast on breakout players. It was a tournament of breakout players. for me, Konstantin Mustel is like the pure breakout where no one knew who he was, and he was just so amazing. But the skipper and Faroe Islands need to get an award. So I would probably nominate Elias Ellefson Ashipagotu as the breakout player who's broken out to the whole
the
world.
other one I had was Martin Costa, because he, as we mentioned at the time, broke out of his brother's shadow, and he is the top scorer. But he's on the actual All-Star team, so he doesn't need to be here. He doesn't need that extra recognition. So let's go for the skipper. Yes.
The skipper.
Okay, congratulations, Elias Ellefson Ashipagotu. Now, the big one, the Adrian Šipoš Award for Excellence in Shithousery. For me, it's got to be perhaps the move that kept Germany in this championship. Yuri Knorr's flop against Austria. And just Yuri Knorr, as a whole, gaslighting German media and the German people throughout this championship.
I think Yuri Knorr is a really good one. He turned into the villain that we kind of knew he was.
I mean, the anti-vaxxer thing,
Pretty
much.
You forget about that. But Yuri Knorr, there's something like he is Slytherin. He's the guy who is fighting the Karate Kid. He just has that evil look about him, and he really leaned.
He's the heel. He is the heel in wrestling. He's the bad guy.
He's the bad guy. I think that's a good one. My nomination was referees at EHF Euro 2024.
That's a big one. What? Okay, go on.
And it's great that we're not the official partner of the EHF Euro, and that all of you on Patreon can support us and allow us to do all these podcasts, because the referees they've just been chaotic. How many times have we, I think this is more than any other championship, have we exited a game talking about a referee's decision? Referees decided so many games in this championship, and the use of VAR was executed well sometimes and not executed at all other times. And I think that's something that just needs to improve. I think, that will improve. VAR is still only new in this sport. It's contentious everywhere. It's not like it's used well in football. It's not like it's used well in basketball. People complain about decisions all the time, despite VAR being there. But too many times in this championship, the outcome of a game has depended on whether a referee would look at VAR or not. And that's the shithousery. That they're going with their gut sometimes, and they're going with the video other times, and they're just scared to look at a video twice. There's one, you look at the VAR, you make a big decision, then something else happens. No, you can't go and look at VAR again, because that would be ridiculous. You can't.
Of course you can.
So that's
I think my view on it is slightly different. I think because overall, I think the standard has been good. I've been quite impressed at times from a lot of refs, and I think that makes the contentious things stand out even more, because there's been a lot of times where I felt like that the general management of the game has been really good, and in comparison to the World Championship in December, for example, has been much better than that. But it puts the spotlight on the moments you just spoke about, and like three really stand out for me. It was the final seconds of Germany-Iceland, the final seconds of Sweden-Denmark, and the final step of Sweden-France and one pair of referees was involved in two of those situations. So in that sense, and that is Slavoj Nikolov and Georgi Nichevsky, and it was the Czech referees who were involved in the third one. That is who's the biggest who's the bigger shitposh then? I mean, is that it is great shithousery, isn't it? Not going to the video.
Exactly. It's the use of VAR at EHF. How about I tone it down from referees, because I think you have a good point about the referees actually being, the standard of refereeing being quite good in the championship overall. But maybe the use of VAR by EHF Euro 2024 referees at crucial moments is my nomination.
This is a funny one in the history books. Maybe actually, Alex, maybe if there was a VAR, a video assisted referee, rather than just video replay, we might not have these issues, or might have. I mean, football. Yeah,
there you go.
That's a whole other discussion. We know how much trouble that that's getting the sport into. But the use of video replay.
Eurignor or the use of video replay at EHF?
I mean, it again goes hand in hand. If video replay was used, then Eurignor wouldn't have gotten away with that flop in a game. That was a game-changing situation in the final 30 seconds of Austria-Germany. So
I think it's pure shithousery. I think it's Eurignor just because that dive was such shithousery.
Or to be as Wagner. Yeah. Okay. You want to go for Knorr? Yeah.
I just wanted to have a rat.
A solid second place for video replay.
There was also, in the Women's World Championship, we came up with an award that was essentially for the most memorable performance, the Henny Reisler Award, most memorable moment, the Henny Reisler Award. But it was like the Golden Spoon or something. Brian came up with the award, and that went to Henny Reisler for her incredible performance in the semi-final and that game winner. And we said that this is an award that we don't have to give out every time. It's not for the best performance in a championship. It is for a performance that is going to be remembered in history. Do we have one in this
final had went a little bit differently, then I would say the overall championship of Emil Nielsen might have been there, because as we spoke about, he hasn't had a bad game, and he didn't have a bad game. His worst performance was like 35%.
He didn't.
That's okay in my books, but he'll be back, and he will get that another time. I don't think, if you don't get the gold when it's a whole overall performance, then I mean, there was a couple of really good individual performances in there as well from him, but I don't know if there was one in a big game.
That's going to be remembered in history. There's been a lot of really good goalkeeper performances throughout the championship, I think, but none that was truly, memorable for the long term. The only thing that I would think that kind of falls into this category is the Elohim Prandi last-second equaliser for France, as just something that will be remembered in history. But can we give this award because it is tainted?
We won't
giving him two again,
awards,
but I think
for the same thing.
He can have the random rocket.
It has to be pure gold.
But I think
pure gold. Henny Reisler was pure gold in that.
Pure gold, yeah. So no Golden Spoon award. Not awarded, and that's okay. And now our new award, the grasping defeat from the jaws of victory, honorary Norwegian award.
Doing Norway. Yes, three. I have three. You start. I feel like you're very passionate about this one.
I have three, two of which we've actually talked about quite a lot, and one is one that really actually came to my attention recently, which I really think is the winner. So my first two are Serbia, or just actually Serbia in general. They lost 3 games, or they just threw away all of their games, but especially that match against Iceland where Peter Djordjic jumped and passed the ball, and Iceland claimed a draw. So that's one. The other one, of course, we talked about a lot. Harold Reinkind, he didn't jump, but he bounced. And it was the skipper who came away with the steal, and Faroe Islands got that amazing result, which was a draw. Both of those draws, actually. So I'm going to leave my third one.
Okay, because I had Serbia, Norway, and the third one I had was Sweden. And I don't quite know where to attribute the blame for this. It was Sweden in the semi-final, in the final seconds. A little bit of...
I know exactly where to attribute the blame, because that's my third one.
So I'm
very passionate about it.
To see whether you have it down as Jim Gottfriedson or Glenn Solberg.
Jim Gottfriedson, 100%.
Take it away, Alex.
It's his steps. So why did you nominate
for
Glenn
taking
Solberg?
the time out too early at the end?
With 15 seconds left.
Because France were not back in defense. They weren't settled. Him taking the time out, I think, gave France what they needed to set themselves up and in the end get the ball back. I think it would have not been the case if he didn't take the time out that early.
I think that's smart, because it was essentially it was 27-25 to Sweden. Then France scored to make it 27-26 at 59-31. So 29 seconds and Sweden had possession. They went up, timeout was taken with 15 seconds left. But then you have 15 seconds to just hold on to the ball. It's the you know what we've talked about it so much. I have said that you don't hold on to the ball, you try score. Don't just faff about, try to score. That's the issue with Serbia. That was the issue with Norway, that they wanted to hold on to the ball and they didn't want to score. But what Jim Gottfriedson did was get the ball at left back and just have a little dance. There was some contentiousness. I don't know where this contentious decision in this travel was. People are like, oh, it was a really soft travel. Ian Gottfriedson got the ball and took 4 steps before he took his first step. He just had a little dance. Went from one foot to the other, went from one to the foot, getting himself ready, then took his 3 steps, got tackled, took a bounce, then took 4 steps, and then scored. And I thought, at this moment, the game was completely over. But why he just thought that he had to do it all by himself in that moment, and why when he was being challenged, he was actually being fouled, he didn't go down.
He fended the defender off like an NFL player.
He did. And I think he got a rush of blood in his head. An experienced player who, I think just for some reason, maybe because Clare had the better performance, he wanted to be the star man again.
On the next championships advertisements on Swedish TV, him barreling through to score the winner.
The steps are called. Very good decision. And the rest is history. The ultimate, I think, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
I have absolutely no contention with that. Fully agree. And your impassioned speech. Nice. So, a wrap up here. The Swiss Army knife goes to Salvador from Portugal. Swiss cheese goes to Gonzalo Perez de Vargas and Spain. Butterknife, Mikkel Damgaard from Denmark. The Random Rocket, Elohim Prandis, semi-final equaliser for France. The Catch Me If You Can, you have his full name? From Georgia
Sintadze.
for his catching the ball and roaming into attack to hand them their first win over Bosnia-Herzegovina. Breakout player goes to Elias Ellison Ashabigotu from Faroe Islands. Adrian Shiposh award for excellency in shithousery goes to Yuri Knorr, and his flop for Germany against, or called a Schwalbe in our Discord. I don't know. The Martin Schwalbe, did he come up with this? No, the Martin Schwalbe, the former player and coach, won the Champions League with Hamburg. I have to look into that. The Golden Glove, Golden Ball, Golden Game, whatever it is called, awarded to nobody. We're going to have to remember that for next time. The Do in Norway, or snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, goes to Sweden and Jim Gottfriedson and his gallivanting. There was one we had in the past, which we haven't used recently, which is the Life of the Party Award. I would give that to the Faroe Islands fans, if we wanted to bring that one back.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. They were the life of the party in what was one of the best preliminary rounds and starts to a championship we've
If you're singing opposition national
they brought the fun.
and you've got Walter Krins in a Faroe Islands morph suit, skull and beers, then that is
and you have 10% of your population.
I think it was up to 12 in the end. I think they had over 6,000 tickets bought, which is incredible. Hopefully the first of many times we can give that to them.
Last point as well is we had a fantasy competition on holdit.dk for all of our Patreon members, and we do have a winner, and we actually have 2 winners. And the reason why we have 2 winners is because you could pay for extra transfers throughout the championship, which was a gold team, where the number 1 spot came from a gold team, which was Team Barbecue 1 from Kara Larson 97. So congratulations, and they will get the wonderful prize of our Gay 5-step mug. Write us on handballhour@gmail.com with your information, and we'll try to send out that mug. But the second award is for the team that could only make 3 transfers in the whole championship, which is very impressive. And it's coming home, finishing 4th place with that normal squad. And Havard Nikolaisen will also receive a mug. So congratulations to both of those teams and winners, and do send us your address on handballhour@gmail.com and we will send out that mug. Thank you everyone who joined us throughout this championship. You've really made it a special one. It really was one of the greatest European championships we've ever had. Amazing action. We appreciate all of your interaction on our Discord, on Twitter, on our social media, and everyone who's signed up for our Patreon. Do stick around on Patreon. We have a morning club coming up very soon. So every week we have a dedicated podcasts for our Patreon listeners. We'll also have plenty of longer podcasts throughout the season as we cover the club handball season. We cover Bundesliga, we cover Champions League, and whatever you want, we will cover it. So thanks again for everyone who has signed up. Do stick with us, and see you on the other side of the European Championship. Get a bit of rest, take your mind off handball for a little bit, and then we'll be back.